Good morning, Mets fans, and happy Thursday. Welcome to Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and last night, in what seems like an eternity, the Mets have won a series on the road. Actually, I don't even know if it seems like an eternity. I've been paying less and less attention to the minute details like that this season, but I was impressed by the fact that the Mets went on the road and were able to win 5 games out of the 9, went 5-4 on the road trip, capping it off by taking 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. Zack Wheeler was impressive once again last night, but, and of course there's a but, because it can't just be all sunshine and lollipops. He did get hit with a ball last night, and I want to talk about that going forward today and recap the series with the Dodgers. So to recap from last night, Zack Wheeler was outstanding. Once again, he pitched really well, seven more strong innings, and Zack Wheeler now leads the Mets with 10 victories. 10 victories for a starting pitcher who began the season, let's not forget, at AAA. Zack Wheeler was a minor leaguer on opening day. He was a Las Vegas 51 on opening day. And here he is today as the clear number 2 in the Mets rotation at this very moment. It's unbelievable how that's unraveled for him. And unraveled in a good way, not in a bad way. Like, you peel an onion sort of thing. You take the layers off and get to the middle of it. Wheeler's onion is looking really great. I don't even know what that was, but whatever. Wheeler once again was able to keep opposing hitters off balance. He did suffer the long ball. Gary did jinx him at one point when Cody Bellinger came up to bat in I think it was the 7th inning, and Bellinger hit a towering home run like 3 seconds after Gary said Wheeler's been able to keep Cody Bellinger in the ballpark, and Cody Bellinger hasn't owned Wheeler, blah blah blah, and then home run. So the Gary jinx was in full effect, but it didn't matter. The Mets ended up winning the game. The Mets offense looked interesting last night. Interesting because as a fan, I sort of feel like we're always on the other side of games like last night. And what I mean is the Mets had so many bloop hits fall in during the game last night. It was almost like making up for all of them that it seems like the Mets get to go against them all season. I think of the 11 hits they had on the night. I could be wrong about that, but of the hits they've had, I would say at least half of them were of the dunk variety or dink variety or bleeder variety. They just found a way to sneak in, and as Keith would say, you won't be able to see it in the box score, but the Mets did put up double-digit hits in the game last night against a very tough pitcher in Hyunjin Ryu, who in the past has owned the Mets. Not unlike really the way the Mets hit the ball off of Rich Hill the night before. The results of last night's game, however, much different. The Mets offense was able to get enough done, and of course Zack Wheeler did his part keeping the Dodgers off the scoreboard for the most part. So that was last night's game. I do want to touch on Amed Rosario, who continues his a really hot streak over the last 2 weeks or so. But really, and I've said this before, since the start of the second half, Rosario's been fantastic. He's really morphing into and evolving into the kind of player that we thought he could be as a potential leadoff guy. 3 more hits last night. He's getting on base more often. I'm just really liking what we're seeing out of Rosario, and I think if he can keep this up for the rest of the season, boy, this is just such a great thing to be able to ride into 2019. So I just wanted to touch on Rosario. 3 more hits last night, 2 more runs scored, doing his part at the top of the order, which is terrific. So where are we next? The Mets go home, so they're off today. Travel day yesterday, last night, whatever, getaway game, and they have an off day today. Tomorrow, Friday, the Mets welcome in the Philadelphia Phillies for a 3-game set back at Citi Field. And about a week or so ago, speculation was that David Wright's rehab assignment with the 51s was ending, and the next logical step in the progression is for David to be added to the 40-man roster and to play at home. And while that would have been wonderful, and I'll get to that in a second, it's not going to be the case. The news came out last night, I believe, or it was early this morning. The news came out that David Wright will be playing in a simulated game on Saturday, so he will not be playing. Apparently, he will not be playing this weekend against the Phillies, which is a bummer. But, why is it a bummer? Well, for multiple reasons. One, we haven't been able to see David Wright play the field for the Mets in almost 2 years, or over 2 years now, I guess. But two, more importantly and selfishly, I'm going to be at the game on Saturday, and I was really, 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 really hoping to be able to see David there, which would have been just fantastic. So, but it's not to be. So no David Wright this weekend. This weekend, however, the Mets do have the potential to play spoiler to the Philadelphia Phillies, which I'm a little bit on the fence about, and I'm not going to say that I'm rooting for the Phillies, but now that the Nationals have all but buried themselves, which has just been delightful to watch, now that the Nationals have buried themselves in the division, and it's down to the two-team race, as I've said before, I cannot get behind rooting for the Braves. I just can't do it physically. I'm physically unable to do it. So in that regard, and with that in mind, I am pulling for the Phillies to win the division. That being said, I do not want them to beat the Mets this weekend. A, because I'm going to be there for one of the games, and B, because I'm liking this positivity that the Mets have been able to put, the positive spin the Mets have been able to put on the second half of the season. And I've said this many times over the last couple of weeks. If you take out the month of the month of June, this season looks very different right now. And they're doing this without Cespedes. They did the month of June without Cespedes too, so maybe those two things are related. But I believe that Michael Barron tweeted the other night a stat about records in the second half, and the Mets have a better second half record than the Yankees do, which it blows my mind. I mean, just blows my mind. You just don't think about that when you look at the overall record on the season. But again, when you consider that dismal month, it makes an awful lot of sense. That, boy, the Mets have not played that badly outside of the month of June. If you go back in time and do it all over again, replay those games, who knows? Maybe something would change. Maybe Jeff McNeil would have been called up sooner and things would have been different. I don't know. We'll never know because you can't go back and change what's happened. So June happened, and so did July and August, and now we're in September, and we're counting the season down as we approach the last day of the year. As for the rest of this week for the show, I will not be back. I'm not going to have much to talk about tomorrow unless some major news breaks, like David Wright punched Jeff Wilpon in the face and said I'm going to play, and that's that. If that is to happen, I will come out tomorrow morning and talk about that. But barring something like that, I will not be back tomorrow. I will instead be back on Monday to chat about the weekend series with the Phillies, my experience at the game on Saturday, and get ready for the week to come. So until then, I thank you for watching. I appreciate it as always. You can follow me on Twitter at Mr_Met. And as always, let's go Mets.